My name is Elena. I'm 66 years old. And last night, my own daughter humiliated me in front of 200 people. She raised her glass to her mother-in-law's enormous birthday celebration, chandeliers dripping with crystal, champagne fountains bubbling like some obscene display of wealth, designer gowns swishing across marble floors, and then she turned to me. She looked right at me with those eyes I used to kiss goodnight when she was small, and she said, "So Mom, when's your turn?" And all I could say, with my heart cracking open like cheap porcelain, was, "It already happened. 5 months ago. You were invited. But your precious mother-in-law threw the invitation in the dustbin." Before I tell you how everything fell apart after that moment, before I take you through the wreckage of what used to be the most important relationship in my life, please do me one favor, like this video, subscribe to this channel, and comment below telling me where in the world you're watching from, because I need to know I'm not alone in this. I need to know that somewhere out there, someone understands what it feels like to be erased by the person you gave life to. Now, let me take you back to last night. Let me paint you a picture of just how grotesque the whole thing was. The ballroom, and yes, I mean an actual ballroom, because apparently my daughter married into the kind of family that rents ballrooms for birthday parties, was decorated like something out of a royal wedding. There were ice sculptures. Ice sculptures. Of swans and roses, and I don't even know what else, because I could barely look at them without feeling sick. The ceiling was draped with white silk and fairy lights that probably cost more than my monthly pension. There were tables with gold-rimmed plates and centerpieces made of orchids flown in from God knows where. The whole place smelled like expensive perfume and roasted lamb and money. Just money. 200 people. 200 guests dressed in their finest, laughing and clinking glasses, and congratulating Mirabelle, that's the mother-in-law, on turning 70. 70 years of what? I wanted to scream. 70 years of manipulation? 70 years of perfecting that smile that doesn't reach the eyes? 70 years of stealing other people's joy? My daughter, Sophia, was glowing. That's the word everyone kept using. "Oh, Sophia, you're glowing. Sophia, darling, you look radiant." She wore a champagne-colored gown that probably cost more than my car. Her hair was done up in some elaborate style, with pearls woven through it. She stood beside Mirabelle all night like she was the queen's attendant, making sure everyone knew whose side she was on, making sure everyone understood the hierarchy. And where was I? Wearing the best dress I own, which suddenly felt like rags compared to everyone else, trying to smile, trying to look like I belonged there, trying not to cry. Nobody talked to me. Not really. A few people I didn't even know gave me polite nods as they passed. But mostly, I was invisible, a ghost at my own daughter's event. Because make no mistake, this wasn't just Mirabelle's party, this was Sophia's production. Sophia planned it. Sophia organized it. Sophia sent out the invitations on the thick cream cardstock with the gold embossing. Sophia made sure every detail was perfect for her beloved mother-in-law. I watched them together all night. Mirabelle would say something and Sophia would laugh, that tinkling, performative laugh she's developed since the wedding. Mirabelle would touch her arm and Sophia would lean in like they were sharing state secrets. They looked like mother and daughter. They looked like what we used to be. And I stood there, invisible, with a glass of champagne I didn't even want, watching the woman who gave birth to me being replaced in real time. Everyone treated Mirabelle like royalty. And I mean everyone. People would approach her with this reverent attitude, like she was doing them a favor by existing. "Mirabelle, you look stunning. Mirabelle, you haven't aged a day. Mirabelle, thank you so much for inviting us to this magnificent celebration." And she would accept it all with this gracious smile, this little nod of her head, like, of course, she deserved it all. The speeches started around 9 o'clock. One by one, people got up to toast Mirabelle. Her son, my son-in-law, Peter, gave this long, flowery speech about what an incredible mother she'd been, how she'd sacrificed everything for him, how she was his hero. Sophia cried during it. Actual tears streaming down her face. For this woman, she's known for 4 years. 4 years versus 66. But who's counting? Then Sophia got up to speak. My heart actually lifted for a moment. Stupid heart. I thought maybe she would acknowledge me. Maybe she would say something like, "And I'm so grateful to have both of the important mothers in my life here tonight." Maybe she would look at me. Maybe she would remember. But no, she gave this glowing tribute to Mirabelle. She talked about how Mirabelle had welcomed her into the family with open arms. How Mirabelle had taught her about elegance and grace. How Mirabelle had shown her what it meant to be a strong woman. She talked about their shopping trips and their lunch dates and their phone calls that lasted for hours. She talked about how Mirabelle was more than a mother-in-law. She's the mother I always needed. The mother she always needed. I felt those words like a physical blow. Like someone had reached into my chest and squeezed my heart until it burst. The mother she always needed. As if I, the woman who carried her for 9 months, who stayed up all night when she was sick, who worked 2 jobs to pay for her education, who sacrificed everything I had and everything I was, as if I wasn't enough, as if I had failed her somehow. But I stood there. I didn't move. I didn't make a scene. I just stood there with my face frozen in something that was supposed to be a smile, feeling my soul crumble inside my body. And then, after all of that, after that speech that erased me completely, Sophia looked around the room with this bright, expectant expression. Her eyes found me by the column, and she raised her glass higher and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "So, Mom. When's your turn?" The room got quiet. Not completely silent, but quiet enough that people nearby turned to look. Quiet enough that I could hear my own heartbeat thundering in my ears. She said it like it was a joke, like she was being playful. But there was something else underneath it, something that felt like pity mixed with judgment. Like she was pointing out to everyone that her poor, pathetic mother didn't have the kind of life that warranted a celebration like this. Like she was highlighting the difference between Mirabelle's grand 70-year milestone and my small, insignificant existence. I opened my mouth. I closed it. I felt every eye in that section of the room on me. I felt the weight of my invisibility suddenly becoming very, very visible. And I said, in a voice that shook despite my best efforts to control it, "It already happened. 5 months ago. You were invited. But your precious mother-in-law threw the invitation in the dustbin. Let me take you back 5 months. Let me tell you about my birthday. My 66th birthday. I'm not wealthy. I never have been. After Sophia's father left, and yes, he left, he didn't die nobly in some accident, he just decided one day that we weren't enough for him anymore. I raised Sophia alone. I worked as a secretary and then as an office manager. I saved what I could. I made sure Sophia had everything she needed, even if it meant I had nothing left over for myself. So when my 66th birthday approached, I didn't expect a ballroom. I didn't expect ice sculptures or champagne fountains or designer gowns. I expected something small. Something simple. Something real. I rented a room at a local restaurant. Nothing fancy, just a nice place with good food and warm lighting. I invited 20 people who mattered to me, old friends from work, neighbors, my sister and her family. And Sophia, of course. Sophia and Peter. I made the invitations myself. I sat at my kitchen table with nice cardstock I bought from the craft store and I handwrote each one. I know it's old-fashioned. I know everyone just sends texts or creates Facebook events now, but I wanted it to be special. I wanted people to know they mattered enough for me to take the time. I wrote Sophia's invitation with extra care. I used my best handwriting. I told her how much it would mean to me to have her there. I told her I loved her. I sealed it in an envelope and I wrote her address on the front, the address of the house she shares with Peter, the house with the long driveway and the perfect lawn, and the mailbox at the end where Maribel, who lives with them, collects the mail every day. I mailed it 3 weeks before my birthday. Plenty of time for her to see it, to RSVP, to put it on her calendar. I waited for a response. I texted Sophia a few days later, casually, just to chat. She responded but didn't mention the invitation. I figured maybe it hadn't arrived yet. Mail can be slow sometimes. A week passed. Nothing. I called her. We talked about her work, about Peter's new promotion, about the weather, about nothing that mattered. She didn't mention my birthday. I didn't want to seem desperate, so I didn't bring it up either. I thought maybe she was planning a surprise. Maybe she and Peter were going to show up early with flowers. Maybe I was worrying for nothing. 2 weeks before my birthday, I called again. This time I mentioned it directly. So, sweetheart, I was wondering if you got my invitation? For my birthday? There was a pause. Then, invitation? No, Mom, I didn't get anything. My stomach dropped. Are you sure? I mailed it weeks ago. I'm sure. I haven't gotten anything from you. Are you sure you sent it to the right address? I gave her the address. She confirmed it was correct. That's so weird, she said. Mail has been strange lately. Some of our packages have been delayed too. Maybe it got lost? Maybe. I said, even though something felt wrong. Something felt very wrong. Well, when is it? Your birthday? I told her the date. Oh, Mom, I'm so sorry. Peter and I have that charity gala that night. It's been scheduled for months. I can't cancel, he's receiving an award. An award. Of course. Something more important than me. That's okay, I lied. Maybe we can celebrate another time. Definitely. I'll take you out for lunch the week after. I promise. She didn't promise. Not really. Because she never called to schedule that lunch, I still went ahead with the party. I'd already paid the deposit on the room, I'd already ordered the cake. And some people, good people, real people had already RSVP'd yes. The night of my birthday, I got dressed in my nicest outfit. I put on makeup even though my hands were shaking. I drove to the restaurant and I walked into that room and I saw exactly what I'd been dreading, empty chairs. Not all of them. My sister was there. A few friends from work. Some neighbors who'd known me for years. But the room that was meant for 20 people had maybe 12. And the chair I'd placed at the head of the table, right beside mine, where Sophia was supposed to sit, that chair stayed empty all night. I kept checking my phone. Maybe she'd gotten the date wrong. Maybe she was running late, maybe. Nothing. I blew out the candles on my cake, a simple vanilla cake with Happy Birthday Elena written in blue frosting, and I made a wish. I wished for my daughter to remember that I exist. I wished for her to love me the way she used to. I wished to matter again. Nobody sang very loudly. The whole thing felt sad and small and pathetic. Exactly the way Sophia had implied last night when she asked, "So Mom, when's your turn?" After everyone left, I sat in my car in the parking lot and I cried. I cried like I haven't cried since Sophia's father walked out. I cried because I knew something was wrong. I knew my daughter hadn't just forgotten. I knew the invitation hadn't just gotten lost. But I didn't have proof. And without proof, what could I say? That my daughter was abandoning me? That her new family was more important than me? I'd sound bitter. Jealous. Like one of those mothers who can't let go. So I went home. I went to bed, and I started to suspect. But let's return to last night. To the ballroom. To the moment after I dropped that bomb. It already happened. 5 months ago. You were invited. But your precious mother-in-law threw the invitation in the dustbin. Sophia's face went through about 5 different expressions in 3 seconds. Confusion. Disbelief. Embarrassment. Anger. What? Mom, what are you talking about? I never got an invitation. I told you. You told me the mail was delayed. You told me maybe it got lost. But it didn't get lost, Sophia. It got stolen. People were definitely listening now. The conversations around us had stopped. I could feel Peter approaching from somewhere behind Sophia. I could see Mirabelle, perfect, elegant Mirabelle, turning toward us with that concerned expression that probably fooled everyone else but made my skin crawl. Mom, you're not making sense, Sophia said, and now her voice had an edge to it. That tone she uses when she's embarrassed and wants to shut something down quickly. That tone that says, you're being inappropriate, you're making a scene, stop talking. But I was done being quiet. I was done shrinking myself to make her comfortable. I'm making perfect sense, I said, and my voice was getting louder now. I couldn't control it anymore. 66 years of being polite, of being understanding, of swallowing my hurt, it was all coming up. I sent you an invitation to my birthday party. You never got it because Mirabelle took it from your mailbox and threw it away. She made sure you didn't know about my birthday so you wouldn't come. So, I would sit there alone while you were off at some gala that apparently mattered more than your own mother. That's ridiculous, Sophia said, but her voice wavered. Mirabelle would never. Wouldn't she? I looked past Sophia to Mirabelle, who was standing very still now, that sympathetic smile frozen on her face. Tell her, Mirabelle. Tell her how you collect the mail every day. Tell her how you help by filtering out the junk mail and the bills and apparently anything from me. Mirabelle's smile didn't falter. That's how good she is. That's how practiced. Elena, darling, I think you're confused. I would never do something like that. If I had seen an invitation from you, of course, I would have given it to Sophia immediately. You're her mother. I would never interfere with that relationship. The word darling made my teeth ache. The fake concern in her voice made me want to scream. You're lying, I said flatly. Mom. Sophia grabbed my arm. Stop it. You're embarrassing yourself. Mirabelle would never, she's not like that. I think you're just upset because. Because what, Sophia? Because you're so wrapped up in this new perfect life with your perfect mother-in-law that you couldn't spare one evening for the woman who gave birth to you? Sophia's face went red. Around us, I could see phones coming out. People were recording this. People were going to post this online. This was going to be everywhere. And for once, I didn't care. I didn't forget about you, Sophia hissed, her voice low and furious. You're the one who never told me about the party. You can't just make up some conspiracy theory about Mirabelle because you're jealous that Peter's family has money and yours doesn't. Because you're bitter that Dad left and you ended up alone and miserable. That's not Mirabelle's fault. That's not my fault. Each word was a knife. Each sentence was designed to cut me down, to put me back in my place. To remind me that I was the lesser mother. The insufficient one. The failure. But I'd been preparing for this moment for months. You see, I'm not stupid. I'm not some naive old woman who doesn't understand how the world works. After my birthday came and went, after Sophia gave me excuse after excuse, after I started noticing how Mirabelle was always there when I tried to call, always in the background making comments that Sophia would laugh at, always, somehow inserting herself between us, I started to suspect. And I'm married to a wonderful man. I got remarried 3 years ago, to Jones, a kind, patient man who actually sees me, who actually values me. And Jones, bless him, is good with technology. Much better than I am. So 2 months ago, I asked him to help me. I told him about my suspicions. I told him I needed proof, not just for Sophia, but for myself. I needed to know I wasn't crazy. I needed to know I wasn't imagining the way Mirabelle's eyes would glitter with satisfaction when Sophia cancelled our plans. I needed to know I wasn't paranoid. Jones, without judging me, without telling me I was being ridiculous, helped me request security camera footage from our old house, the house where I used to live before I married Jones. The house that's now rented out, but where the landlord still maintains security cameras on the porch. The house where I mailed Sophia's invitation from, where I walked to the corner mailbox and dropped it in. And Jones helped me do something else. Something I'm not entirely proud of, but something I had to do. He helped me access the cloud backup of Sophia's old phone, the phone she'd had before she upgraded last year. The phone that was still on our family plan before she switched to Peter's plan. The phone whose data was still technically accessible to me as the account holder. In that data, I found messages. Messages between Sophia and Mirabelle. Messages that made everything clear. So, last night, standing in that ballroom with 200 people starting to watch, with Sophia's face twisted in anger and embarrassment, with Mirabelle's mask starting to crack just the tiniest bit at the edges, I pulled out my phone. "You want proof?" I said, my voice shaking but clear. "You think I'm making this up? You think I'm just some bitter, jealous old woman who's inventing conspiracies?" I pulled up the first video. The security camera footage. Jones had helped me edit it down to just the relevant parts, and had helped me make sure it was clear and undeniable. I held up my phone so Sophia could see. So everyone nearby could see. The footage showed Mirabelle walking to Sophia and Peter's mailbox. It was dated the day after I'd mailed the invitation. The timestamp was right, there, 2:47 p.m. We watched Mirabelle open the mailbox. We watched her flip through the mail. We watched her stop on a particular envelope, a cream-colored envelope with my handwriting clearly visible even on the grainy security footage. We watched her read it. We watched her face as she read my invitation to my own daughter, and we watched her smile. Not the gracious, elegant smile she shows the world, but a different smile. A cold smile. And then, we watched her look around, checking to make sure no one was watching. And we watched her take my invitation, my handwritten, heartfelt invitation to my own daughter, and we watched her walk directly to the garbage bin at the end of the driveway. And we watched her throw it away. The silence around us was deafening. Sophia's face had gone white. That can't be. There's more, I said, and I was crying now. I couldn't help it. Seeing that footage again, seeing the proof of Mirabelle's cruelty, seeing the evidence that I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't imagining it, it broke something open in me. I pulled up the screenshots. The messages between Sophia and Mirabelle from 5 months ago. Sophia's message: "Has Mom said anything to you about her birthday? I feel like I'm forgetting something." Mirabelle's response: "No, dear. She hasn't mentioned anything to me. You know how she is, she doesn't like to make a fuss. She probably doesn't want to celebrate this year." Another message from Sophia, a week later: "I still feel like Mom's birthday is coming up soon, but I can't remember when it is exactly. Did she send me something?" Mirabelle's response: "No, sweetheart, she didn't send anything. If she wanted you there, she would have made sure you knew. She must have decided to skip it this year. Don't worry about it, she probably just wants to be alone. You know how she's been since she remarried. She's been different. More distant. I was never distant, I was never different." And there was more. Message after message after message. Mirabelle telling Sophia I was pulling away. Mirabelle suggested I was jealous of Peter's success. Mirabelle mentioned how I'd made uncomfortable comments about their wealth, comments I never made. Mirabelle, slowly, carefully, methodically poisoned my daughter against me. And worst of all, there was this message from 3 months ago. Sophia, I'm thinking of calling Mom and maybe planning a lunch date. I feel like we haven't talked in a while. Mirabelle, that's sweet of you, dear. But maybe give her some space? I think she's going through something. She seemed irritated last time you spoke. Maybe she needs time to herself. You don't want to crowd her. I never seemed irritated. I was never going through anything except the agony of being systematically erased from my daughter's life. That's not, Mirabelle started, but her voice had lost its smooth confidence. Those messages are taken out of context. Sophia asked me for advice, and I was just trying to. To what? I turned on her, and I felt something burning in my chest, something that had been building for months. Years, maybe. To steal my daughter? To make sure she forgot about me? To replace me? Mom, Sophia said, and her voice was breaking now. She was staring at the phone screenshots, at the security footage I was still holding up. Mom, I didn't know. I thought. You thought I didn't care about you, I said, and my voice was flat now. Dead. You thought I was pulling away from you. You thought I was jealous or bitter or distant. And you thought that because Mirabelle made sure you thought it. Because every time you tried to reach out to me, she was there whispering in your ear that maybe I didn't really want to hear from you. Every time I tried to reach you, she made sure the message didn't get through. Every time we could have connected, she built another wall. I pulled up one more thing. The phone log from Sophia's old phone records, the call history. Look, I said, showing her. Look at this. 3 months ago, I called you 7 times in 1 week. 7 times. Do you remember that? Sophia shook her head slowly. She looked like she might be sick. You didn't answer any of them. And when I finally sent you a text asking if you were okay, you responded. I scrolled to show her. You responded that you'd been busy and that you'd call me back soon. But you never did. Do you know why? I pulled up another screenshot. A message from Mirabelle to Sophia, sent the day after my 7th unanswered call. Mirabelle, your mother called Peter's office today asking about you. It was a bit embarrassing, honestly. His secretary thought there was some kind of emergency. Maybe you should talk to her about boundaries? She can't keep treating you like a child, you're a married woman now. I never called Peter's office, I said, my voice shaking. I never did that. She made it up. She made you think I was being inappropriate and clingy and embarrassing. She made you think you needed to distance yourself from me for your own good. Sophia was crying now. Full tears streaming down her face, ruining her makeup. Around us, the crowd had grown. People were openly watching now. Phones were everywhere, recording every second of this. Peter had pushed through to stand beside Sophia. His face was hard to read, shock, maybe. Or anger. Or both. Mom, he said, and his voice was ice. He wasn't talking to Sophia, he was talking to Mirabelle. Mom, is this true? Mirabelle's mask was cracking now, her perfect composure was slipping. But she tried one more time to save face. This is absurd, she said, but her voice was too high. Too defensive. Elena is clearly unstable. She's manufacturing evidence because she can't accept that Sophia has a new family, a better family. This is slander. The security footage has a timestamp, Jones's voice said from behind me. I hadn't even realized he'd come up to stand beside me. It has a date. It's from a camera system you didn't know existed. Elena didn't manufacture anything. You got caught. Mirabelle's face did something I'd never seen before, it was twisted. All that elegance, all that grace, All that perfect poise, it fell away, and underneath it was something ugly. Something bitter. Something that had probably been there all along, hidden beneath designer clothes and practiced smiles. Fine, she spat, and several people gasped because Mirabelles aren't supposed to spit words. Fine. Yes, I threw away your pathetic invitation. Yes, I made sure Sophia didn't waste her time on your sad little party. Because you're not good enough for her. You never were. You're a secretary who married above her station once and still ended up alone. You have nothing to offer Sophia except guilt and obligation and the constant reminder that she came from nothing. The words hung in the air like poison. Sophia made a choked, broken sound. Your poison, Mirabelle continued, and she was fully unhinged now. The mask was gone completely. You drag her down. You make her feel guilty for having success, for marrying well, for having the life she deserves. You want her to stay small like you. You want her to be miserable like you. So yes, I interfered. Yes, I made sure she had distance from you. Because someone had to protect her from your toxic need to keep her trapped in your mediocre life. The silence that followed was absolute. Then, Sophia spoke, and her voice was barely a whisper. Get out. Mirabelle blinked. What? Get out. Sophia's voice was stronger now. Louder. Get out of this party. Get out of my house, get out of my life. Sophia, don't be dramatic. You're upset. You're not thinking clearly. I did this for you. I did this because I love you. You don't love me, Sophia said, and she was shaking. You love controlling me. You love having me as your perfect little accessory. You love that I made you look good. But, you don't love me. Because love doesn't destroy someone's relationship with their mother. Love doesn't lie. Love doesn't manipulate and scheme and poison. Peter was staring at his mother like he'd never seen her before. You did this, he said slowly. You've been doing this the whole time. All those comments about Elena, all those suggestions that she was difficult or demanding. You were isolating Sophia from her own mother. I was protecting her from. You were protecting yourself, Peter said, and his voice was cold in a way I'd never heard before. You were making sure Sophia didn't have anyone else, making sure she only had you. Making sure you were the most important person in her life. That's sick, Mom. That's beyond sick. Mirabelle looked around the ballroom, at all the guests watching her, at all the phones recording her unraveling. She looked at her son, at his face full of disgust. She looked at Sophia, who was crying and shaking and being comforted by friends. She looked at me, standing there with my phone full of evidence, with my proof, with my truth. And then she did something I didn't expect. She laughed. It was a brittle, broken sound. You'll all see, she said. You'll all see what a mistake this is. Sophia, you'll come back. You'll remember who paid for your wedding, who supported you, who was actually there for you when your own mother was too poor, too pathetic to help. You'll remember who really loves you. Security, Peter said quietly, gesturing to two men in suits standing near the entrance. Please escort my mother out of the building. She's no longer welcome at this event. It was her birthday party. Her 70th birthday party. And she was being removed from it by security while 200 guests watched in stunned silence. Mirabelle tried to maintain some dignity as she was led away, but I could see her hands shaking. I could see the way her perfect posture crumbled just slightly. I could see the fear in her eyes, the fear of losing control, of losing power, of losing the thing she'd built her entire identity around. As she passed me, she leaned in and whispered, just loud enough for me to hear, "This isn't over." But it was. It was over. After Mirabelle was gone, the party didn't continue. How could it? The guest of honor had just been exposed as a manipulative liar and thrown out of her own celebration. People started leaving in awkward clusters, whispering to each other, still filming on their phones. Sophia stood in the middle of the ballroom, surrounded by the ruins of the perfect party she'd planned, crying. She looked young suddenly. Younger than her 34 years. She looked like the little girl who used to climb into my bed during thunderstorms and made me promise that nothing bad would ever happen to her. I wanted to go to her. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to rush over, to hold her, to comfort her, to tell her it was all okay. But it wasn't all okay. She looked up and saw me standing there. She took a step toward me. "Mom," she said, and her voice was so broken. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. I should have. I should have questioned it. I should have called you more. I should have." I held up my hand. "Stop." She stopped. "Sophia," I said, and I was so tired. So tired. "You humiliated me tonight. Not just tonight, for months. You chose her over me at every turn. You believed her lies without question. You made me feel invisible in my own daughter's life." "I know. I know. But I didn't realize." "You didn't want to realize," I said, and the truth of it hurt both of us. Because realizing would have meant admitting that your new perfect life wasn't so perfect. It would have meant choosing between the mother who gave birth to you and the mother-in-law who gave you access to wealth and status and everything you'd always dreamed of having. And you chose her, Sophia. You chose her. No, I. Yes, I said firmly. You did. And now you're sorry because you got caught. Because everyone saw what you let her do to me. Because it's embarrassing and dramatic and messy. But if I hadn't had that footage? If I hadn't had those messages? Would you have believed me? Would you have taken my side? Or would you have told me I was imagining things, that I was being paranoid, that Mirabelle would never do something like that? Sophia didn't answer. She didn't need to. We both knew the truth. "I love you," I said, and my voice cracked. "I will always love you. You're my daughter. I carried you in my body. I nursed you. I raised you. I sacrificed everything for you. I loved you before you were born and I'll love you after I'm dead. But love without respect is not love. It's an obligation. It's guilt. It's a chain that binds us both in misery. Mom, please. I need space," I said. "I need time. I need to figure out if I can forgive this. If I can forget seeing your face when you implied that my life wasn't worth celebrating. If I can move past the fact that you thought I was pathetic and bitter and jealous instead of hurt and lonely and abandoned. I'll do anything," Sophia said desperately. "I'll cut Mirabelle off completely. I'll call you every day. I'll move back home if that's what you want. Just please don't leave me. Please don't stop being my mom." "I'll never stop being your mom," I said quietly. "But I'm going to stop begging for scraps of your attention. I'm going to stop accepting crumbs when I deserve a place at the table. I'm going to stop shrinking myself to fit into the corners of your life that Mirabelle hasn't already claimed." I started walking toward the exit. Behind me, I heard Sophia sob. I heard Peter trying to comfort her. But I didn't turn back. I walked out of that ballroom with my head high. I walked to Jones's car. I got in. And as we drove away from that monument to wealth and status and everything Sophia had been seduced by, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Relief. When I got home, the first thing I did was block Mirabelle's number. I blocked her on my phone, on social media, on every platform I could think of. I deleted every photo I had of her. I erased her from my digital life with the same casual cruelty she'd erased me from my daughter's life. It felt good. The second thing I did was text Sophia. Not to comfort her. Not to apologize. But to set a boundary. The text said, "I love you. But I need space. Don't call me, don't text me, don't show up at my house. When I'm ready to talk, I'll reach out. Until then, respect my decision the way I've respected yours for the past 5 months. She tried to call immediately. I didn't answer. She sent texts, paragraphs and paragraphs of apologies and explanations and promises. I didn't read them. I turned off my notifications from her and I put my phone away. The third thing I did was make myself a cup of tea. I sat in my comfortable chair in my small, modest living room in my small, modest house that will never impress anyone like Mirabelle, and I cried. But this time, they weren't tears of hurt or rejection or invisibility. They were tears of release. For months, years, maybe I'd been holding myself hostage to Sophia's approval. I'd been measuring my worth by whether or not my daughter remembered to call me, by whether or not she made time for me, by whether or not I was important enough to her to warrant basic consideration and respect. I'd been dying slowly, invisibly, silently, while everyone around me celebrated her perfect new life. But no more. That night, lying in bed next to Jones, I made a decision. I decided that I was done waiting for Sophia to see me, to value me, to remember that I exist. I was done being invisible. I was done being the lesser mother, the embarrassing mother, the poor mother, the mother who didn't measure up. I decided to build a life that didn't revolve around being needed by someone who'd made it clear I was excess baggage in her new, improved existence. It's been 3 weeks since Mirabelle's birthday party. 3 weeks since I walked out of that ballroom and drove away from my daughter's tearful apologies. The video went viral, of course. Someone posted it online and within hours it was everywhere. Millions of views. Thousands of comments. Articles written about it with headlines like "Mother-in-law exposed for destroying family relationship" and "Daughter chooses wealth over mother until caught on camera." I've become something of an accidental internet celebrity. People recognize me at the grocery store. They stop me to tell me their own stories of being excluded, manipulated, or replaced. They tell me I'm brave. They tell me they wish they had my courage. I don't feel brave. I feel exhausted and sad and angry and relieved all at the same time. Sophia has tried to reach me 47 times. Yes, I've counted. Calls, texts, emails, messages through Jones. She sent flowers. She sent letters. She showed up at my door twice and I didn't answer. Peter called me once. He apologized for his mother. He told me he'd asked Mirabelle to move out of their house. He told me he understood if I never wanted to see him again, but he hoped I'd give Sophia another chance eventually. I told him I appreciated the call and hung up. My sister thinks I'm being too hard on Sophia. She says Mirabelle manipulated her, that Sophia was a victim too. She says I should forgive and move on, because life is short and family is important. But I'm tired of being told to forgive people who hurt me just because they're family. I'm tired of being expected to be understanding and patient and gracious, while everyone else gets to be selfish and cruel and thoughtless. For the first time in my 66 years, I'm choosing myself. I'm choosing my peace. I'm choosing my dignity. I've started painting again, something I used to love before Sophia was born, before all my time and energy went into being a mother. I've joined a book club. I've made plans to travel with Jones to places I've always wanted to see but never thought I deserved to visit. I'm building a life that doesn't require anyone's permission or approval. A life where my birthday matters because I say it matters, not because someone else remembers to acknowledge it. And Sophia? Sophia is learning what it feels like to be the one reaching out and getting no response. She's learning what it feels like to wonder if she matters to someone she loves. She's learning what it feels like to realize that you can lose people not through dramatic breakups or tragic deaths, but through 1,000 small cruelties that add up to abandonment. Maybe someday I'll be ready to talk to her again. Maybe someday I'll be ready to hear her apologies and explanations. Maybe someday I'll be ready to rebuild some version of our relationship. But not today. Today, I'm 66 years old. I'm learning to paint landscapes. I'm reading books that make me think. I'm planning a trip to Italy with the man who actually sees me, who actually values me, who actually remembers my birthday without needing security camera footage to prove it happened. Today, I'm learning that being invisible to the people who should see you most clearly isn't a reflection of your worth, it's a reflection of their blindness. Today, I'm learning that love without respect is not love at all. It's just a word people use to justify taking you for granted. And today, for the first time in 5 months, I feel visible. Not because my daughter finally sees me, but because I finally see myself. I'm Elena. I'm 66 years old, and I'm done being invisible.